Hello, I'm Mark.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about weaponized Berlin. But first, let's roll that title.
You're watching the Tesla Life Express!
Patrick, you just keep getting louder and bigger. I swear, man, you got to work for the WWE at some point.
I forgot to move the mic away, so sorry if I blew out anybody's ears. I usually, yeah.
Oh, no, that's great. Don't ever change. We're going to talk a little bit today about what's going on in Berlin. And of course, I've got my good friends, Casey and Patrick, joining us as per usual. But what we've got here is this story talks a little bit about the Berlin site overall. Tesla's bought a number of hectares of land that they have been. They built the first plant. Obviously, they've added on to it a little bit, and now, of course, there's a plan to double the production size, which requires another vast area of the land to be prepared for the building of foundation and, of course, the building afterward. But what they found was not much of a surprise. We are talking about Berlin here, but there were some unexploded ordnance found in where the new factory is planned to be built. And they of course use a number of different services in Berlin that are well adopted to this type of searching. Anytime a new building is being placed in the city, in any certain areas that they've mapped already or have not mapped, they are required by law to go in and do a search for unexploded ordnance. Any anomalies they can find in the soil up to a certain depth are identified. And then, of course, they are, if they are dangerous, they're dug up, possibly exploded on site, or possibly moved, depending on what the ordnance removal company believes is best for everyone involved. So, and of course, as mentioned previously, this is not something new for Berlin. It's nothing new for Tesla either, because the original factory had to go through this exact same procedure, and they had a number of different ordinances that were found and had to be exploded, even some of them on site, where they cleared everyone out of the construction zone, detonated it with another explosive to make sure that that ordinance was not going to be dangerous at all. So this new particular site, go ahead, Casey.
Even the Treehouse terrorists had to deal with it.
That's right.
They found one, and the police had to come and do their thing.
Oh, wow. I'm glad nobody was hurt.
Yeah.
The area that they're looking for this new wing of the factory is about 79 hectares in size, or 195 acres of land, which is being scanned. The article indicates, and of course the article is linked if you'd like to read it at your leisure. They indicate that the pieces removed from this particular property have been, for the most part, identified as British munitions that were dropped toward the end of the Second World War. Many of the remaining and extra munition pieces were simply just buried underground, giving plenty of work to the teams to continue finding and surveying where they are, and of course disposing them as time went along. There were certain designated areas that were suspicious, where they would do searches, either find or not, and then of course the extraction would have to be done, possibly at some points halting the public transportation or the factory, depending on where it was positioned. Another thing of interest was that, not in this particular article, but a previous article, was that that they also found some chemical weapons, which belong to the Wehrmacht, Wehrmacht, Wehrmacht. or Unified Armed Forces of Nazi Germany. So there has been both regular munitions, and now at this point they've also found some chemical munitions that they have to remove in obviously a careful manner in both scenarios.
Wow. So those chemical weapons, the W is probably pronounced as a V, but they're what, 80, 90 years old, and they've been out in the elements in this forested area. And I'm sure if they're not already leaking, they would be soon. And eventually that's going to find its way into some water system or some part of the ecosystem. So it's a good thing these were found.
Yeah. Go ahead, Casey.
They could either be getting weaker as every year goes on, or they could be getting stronger as every year goes on, depending on which chemicals we're talking about.
Yeah. And the other thing that I find interesting is that obviously none of us live in Germany or Europe for that matter. We've been lucky here in North America that we haven't had a war waged on our shores. But what I find interesting, well, a modern war. I find it. You know, we went down and burnt your White House. The Canadians did that at one point. So, but we're not going to get into that today. But what I wanted
the North
to mention,
American War started right here, right now, with some Canadians spouting off.
But what I wanted to mention, we're friends now. We're over that. We're over that. But what I wanted to mention was that it's kind of interesting that people that live in those areas to have a requirement that whenever you're building or digging in a certain area that you have to have a munitions search, because there's that many munitions that are, you know, unmapped, unknown, that may be active or inactive on your build site. That's got to be a bizarre way, you know, obviously not for them because they've been through this since 1945. We get that, but that's really different thinking for someone in North America that you have to look for weapons in the soil before you build anything. But yeah, that's kind of interesting that has happened at this particular location. And of course, with Tesla looking to build that second plant or that expansion, that's going to be the way for the rest of the build as well. Because if they go beyond, it's obviously they're going to have to do it again. Previously, they were cutting down trees, of course, the cardboard forest, as Casey puts it, that they were to build the original plant, they had to cut down some part of the forest, and there were munitions even in there. So obviously, you know, after the war, eventually someone came in and planted trees in rows, and they, you know, the root systems and whatever didn't disturb them. And these trees grew up for a number of years and could actually be harvested by the time that Tesla wanted to clear them out. But again, it's really weird to see that the landscape might have completely changed with the forest now sitting where they are, but they still have to be searched for in the same manner because they could just be down a few more feet. And of course, if you're looking to put in a concrete piling or something, you wouldn't want to be hammering down an unexploded piece of, you know, weapon that could explode in your face.
Yeah, I'm actually impressed that they could find these. Given the huge space, I mean, like the story you just told, Mark, they went through and planted trees in that and didn't find some. And they're planting the trees, you know, as close as they can to still give them space to grow, and they didn't find it. So whatever group is doing the searching, kudos to them. And I wonder what percentage, you know, do they find 50%, 80%, 90%? I mean, you have no way of knowing, I guess, unless you find some others during construction.
Yeah.
Even the regular old bullets need to come out because
they could explode too. Like there's you know, obviously, you know,
the spent bullets. Those got to go too.
Lead or whatever's in them from back then.
But yeah, that's just kind of. I thought it was kind of an interesting story. Again, being North American, I've been sheltered from this, but it is interesting that any building permit has to be. This has to go in ahead of any digging into the ground to figure out if there has been some issue with unexploded ordnance around the site that you plan to build on, which makes complete sense safety wise. But I would wonder, Patrick, how many of them actually were possibly explosive, because most times when they find a unexploded ordnance, what they do is they detonate it with another explosive. That's the safest way to handle it. But I wonder how many are really duds as opposed to still have some explosive in it or could explode. I wonder if the company would be able to tell us what percentage that might be.
Well, usually a dud is the trigger mechanism, which is a small explosion that sparks the big explosion. So whatever was there for the big explosion is still there and still volatile. It just the trigger mechanism didn't work. So it's even though it was a dud, it still could be very dangerous.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You mentioned that from our North American view. I mean, our people got to come home. For them, this was home. So
yeah, exactly. Well, with that, I think we will wrap it. Casey, what do you got to tell the audience?
Sunday, check us out on, check me and whoever decides to show up for Just Chatting with Casey and Friends on Sunday at youtube.com/Casey Green. And then on Monday, come back here for the second installment of the Tesla Life Express. And then on Wednesday, you can catch us for the Tesla Life Live show. Also, we've got a YouTube podcast. We still have the other podcast for every other platform, but now that folks are finally starting to get the summer update, including Hardware 3, YouTube Music is now an application that's going to show up in the car. And so we're already on YouTube. So YouTube Music will know that we're a podcast. And if you're driving, it won't show the video, but the audio will work, which is pretty
awesome.
Cool.
You know why? Because we're really distracting if you're driving, so we don't want that.
Look over here. Look over
there. Patrick, Sunday's coming up. I think you got something happening on Sunday.
That's right. Yes, you can find out what having power walls can do to your electricity bill. And it's a good thing. So check that out on Sunday. And I'd like to thank Lee Moon for the music that he provides for us on every show. And I blog at carswithcords.net. Check that out. And where I write about my future free from fossil fuels. And as always, I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. Pointing at the wrong thing. There we go.
And we're still working on getting Patrick a longer banner so we can have everything all on the screen at once.
That's right. I want complete URLs and yes, and I'll include a QR code. And
That's right. Thank you so much, Patrick, Casey, and we thank you for listening and watching. And we'll get together next time and find out what's happening in the Tesla Life.